Welcome to the channel, guys. So, took a day, wanted to think about the president's speech the other night. I'm ready to talk about it. I've got a couple videos from Mark Wayne Mullins and a video with John Solomon and Mike Benz, and let's kind of look at what we found out the other night. The first one we'll take a look at is just Mark Wayne Mullins on the fact that the networks didn't want to cover the president's speech, which is incredible. I'd appreciate if you guys would subscribe, like, and share. Tremendous boost to the channel. Greatly appreciated. Here we go.
Yeah, so let's talk about the major networks not willing to carry the President of the United States address to the nation on election security. How shameful is that? I think it was ABC, NBC, and I don't know if CBS, did CBS carry it? Anybody? CBS carried it? So ABC and NBC not carrying that? Why? What are they trying to cover up? Why wouldn't they want to inform the American people? Why are they calling themselves a news outlet if they're not actually trying to put the news out there? We wasn't giving spin on the election. The president wasn't trying to relitigate what happened in 2020, although he definitely could at this point. The president was giving facts, what we have exposed, what the Biden administration covered up, what the intelligence community held from the American people, Congress, and the executive branch, and we're putting it out there. And yet, two major networks didn't want to cover it. I think the question really should say why. Because they sure covered the other part of it when they were saying that it was the most secure election ever. What facts did they have? Because they didn't have facts. They were taking someone's word for it. President Trump gave facts. Today we're giving facts.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You remember Chris Krebs at the DHS in his little unit there saying it was the most safest and secure election ever, which we're going to get into. It looks like what happened here is the Chinese data hacked us for 220 million voters' information. This isn't generic information either. This is driver's license numbers. We all know they not only sent ballots, but they sent driver's licenses and they changed people's information. In other words, they could register you in another state. You'd never know. And unless somebody puts it together, they can vote for you wherever they want. Okay, 220 million Americans' data taken by the Chinese. And there's a lot of other things that they did. Let me play another video, short one from Mark Wayne Mullins. He makes some great points.
About our machines, we know for sure that our foreign adversaries, not our allies, foreign adversaries have parts that are vital pieces in our voting machines. We know that they can access what they consider the key to the back of these machines. We know that they can change voter registration and your vote. We know it's possible. There's not a question. It's not even for debate. One thing that I love about numbers and I love about facts is they don't lie. This isn't something that I'm trying to tell you to spin a narrative. This is what is going on. And what we are saying is that every state should partner with us to work to secure this. Once we identify the problem, everybody should be informed. Working with Secretary Lutnick, we are going to make our security enhancements mandatory, meaning that if these states want a grant and they want to be reimbursed to work or to run federal elections, they're going to have to implement security issues. Just security issues. We're not trying to get into anything else, but we're saying that the machines have to be secured and that your voter registration list needs to be scrubbed. We need to make sure that individuals that are legally able to vote are voting.
Let me just comment on one thing. We know that some of the components in all of our voting machines are made in China. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. There's no excuse for it. And the Democrats will fight tooth and nail. The real problem we have going on here was just highlighted by a Rasmussen poll. A third of Americans think socialism is a good idea. And for the first time ever, less than 50% think it's a bad idea. Look it, socialism has never worked anywhere in the history of the world. Never, not one time. It always steals from the people. So we've got real problems, and we've got the Chinese. They brought in consultants with, messaging. They wanted 4 things. They wanted Trump to be a bad person, make him look bad. They wanted to foment racial strife on the street. This is back in 2020, mind you. They used blackmail on U.S. officials. And, that's election interference by anybody's definition. The cover-up from the intel agencies and the information from the president's daily briefing, will we see a perp walk? I really do believe that's the way that we're headed with this, because people broke the law. There were 39 items singled out by the intelligence agencies to do with election integrity in 2020, and only 5 of them were presented in the president's daily briefing. That's just mind-blowing. Let me go to this last video now with John Solomon and Mike Benz.
And it takes a lot to shock me.
Yeah, I was going to say.
When this story first broke, I thought that there must be some details about it that are more speculative than you can rely on. But the more I read the piece that you published and saw what Cash submitted to Chuck Grassley, there are several levels of this that are concerning almost beyond belief. So obviously the first family itself was taking millions of dollars from China. The Biden first family through Hunter Biden and China CEFC Energy was taking $5 to $10 million in consulting fees from Chinese energy firms as Hunter Biden was flying on Air Force One to China with Vice President Biden in order to secure those deals. Biden's CIA director, Bill Burns, took millions of dollars from China when he was the head of the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace for 7 years before becoming CIA director, taking CCP members and putting them on Carnegie's board, as well as forming a joint Carnegie-China center so that they could cooperate more closely. Tony Blinken, the Secretary of State, was the managing director of the Penn Biden Center, which took millions of dollars from China. So all the way up and down the entire foreign policy establishment of the Biden administration, from the White House to the CIA to the State Department, you had millions of dollars being juiced by the Chinese government the entire time. And then the more you think about this story, the more shocking it gets when you think about the massive, biggest election censorship event in human history, which was DHS CISA's censorship of the 2020 election, specifically to stop election misinformation, which was all run out of a group that Chris Krebs formed called the Countering Foreign Influence Task Force, which you would think would have been the exact task force at DHS set up to stop something like this and set up to be responsive to something like this, when in fact it did the exact opposite. They told us there was no foreign interference. Now, how does the FBI know this, and the CIA know this, and the DHS task force, who is responsible for stopping the domestic side of this operation, not be informed? How is it possible that this intelligence was circulated at the FBI and CIA levels, but not at the DHS level? And so that is an immediate question for Chris Krebs and Alex Stamos.
Well, we can actually answer the question for you, Mike, too. The document I actually saw the document and got some of the quotes from it. It was circulated to the Department of Homeland Security in addition to the CIA. So they were, now it doesn't say CISA, it does say DHS, so at least the senior component got it. And when it was called back, they asked all those agencies to destroy it. So it was sent out to Homeland.
Now get this. The DHS censorship operation run out of CISA together with EIP, this 4-group consortium of 120 individual censors monitoring the entire internet across 15 different platforms to censor pro-Trump tweets or anyone who cast doubt on the integrity of the 2020 election. In the slide deck presentations of those censors who were set up by DHS, who got to use CISA's 24/7 cyber mission control to flag tweets, in those presentations, they specifically finger out a specific tweet by Donald Trump on June 22nd, and I'll read it. Rigged 2020 election. This is all caps. Rigged 2020 election. Millions of mail-in ballots will be printed by foreign countries and others. It will be the scandal of our times. Now, DHS's censorship network specifically cited that tweet as one of the reasons they needed to scramble to form this wide-spanning, totalizing censorship operation. And the fact that they specifically were set off by tweets by Donald Trump insinuating that foreign countries may be printing ballots or taking advantage of the mail-in ballot system in the operation that Cash just laid out, while that was the triggering tweet among several others to set up this entire censorship operation, while DHS had inside classified knowledge that that is exactly what was going down and that Donald Trump was in fact correct. So they set up the censorship operation. In part, it would seem to suggest that their knowledge of this at the senior level of DHS or at the Chris Krebs level may have been motivated in part by a desire to keep quiet these various scandals, because as China was backing the entire Biden foreign policy establishment, literally and monetarily, the idea that China would be exploiting this would be a massive, massive, massive scandal, especially on the heels of Russiagate, where that entire apparatus used all of that power and abuse of the FBI and Justice Department in order to go after foreign powers interfering in elections. That could have been a scandal that could have tipped the election. So the idea that not only would they censor it at the FBI and CIA level, but that DHS itself could be activated to censor anyone who might suggest that a foreign body like China may be exploiting the mail-in.
So what I'm taking away from this is Americans have been working with our enemies to hurt America. Chris Krebs knew darn well that there was a lot wrong with the 2020 election. And yet, who bothered them most? The president. His tweet is what set them off. And they started censoring. Everyone remembers there was a period where you couldn't say anything about the 2020 election without getting censored on any platform you were on. It's crazy. What about the FBI agent who said in an email or a tweet, which isn't clear because I've heard both, that she was running a shadow government with this, with the deception of not giving the correct information to the president in the president's daily briefing? This is insanity. Like he just said, Blinken and everyone in Biden's orbit was taking money from China. Okay? They had access to 220 million voter files, and I'm talking complete records where they can print a driver's license. They sent ballots. We have more evidence of mass fraud coming right on the back of 4 years of Russia, and we found out all that was nonsense. No, you know what? People need to be perp walked here. People need to go to prison, and I will never say anything different than that. I will not be satisfied until we see it actually take place. And one other thing, these nonprofits that are aligned with foreign governments, that has to stop. Soros, big name involved in all of these, protests, which are really riots, where the pallets of bricks are left all around. He's suspect number one, and he just had one of his companies raided by the FBI in Ohio the other day, a couple of days ago. I'm expecting to see some major movement within a month on this. These people that in the CIA, the FBI, and DHS, everyone was involved in putting together the PDB. They're being interviewed, and they're being investigated right now. The people that hid the information from our president are being investigated. So I'm hopeful with the information that we have, because what Trump gave us was, he wouldn't give us methods and sources and names. He gave us the broad strokes, but they know exactly what went on. So I think people will be held accountable. I know it never happens, but I'm going on record. I believe it will. This is important. I'll keep you updated on it as we go. Hopefully, we're going to see some big time perp walks, some people who were in jobs and intel who betrayed this country, who worked with our enemies and profited, and will be held accountable with long prison sentences. Guys, have a wonderful day. God bless.